On today's show, we cross over into enemy territory and talk 49ers Rams with one of the premier Rams content creators, Jake Ellenbogen, and we talk about what we expect to see from our teams tomorrow. Remember, as always, you can listen to this episode on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts from. Be sure to like and subscribe and hit the notification bell so you can be alerted when new content drops. You're inside the Johnny Dell Football Academy. Hello, Niner faithful, and some people who may be finding the channel who are in Rams territory. I don't know how I feel about this quite yet, guys, but welcome to the channel that's trying to answer the whys and hows of the game. We do that by diving into game film and dissecting why the X's zig and the O's zag. I am Adam Marino, joined by, of course, Mr. Johnny Dell. And with us today, and he's hosting on his channel as well, is Jake Ellenbogen. And here's the deal, guys. We have talked about on this channel the way that things were going to go, and then it has not gone that way at all because life happens. And we are so excited, though, to have another content creator like Johnny in Jake. Now, he is with the other team. I'm going to try not to mention that team as much as possible, or as least as possible, I guess I'll say. But we are very, very excited to be able to talk Niners Rams and kind of come as I see these comments coming in. Man, it's getting crazy already. But Jake, how are you doing, man?
I'm good, man. How are you doing? Thank you guys for having me.
I'm stoked. I'm ready. How are you guys feeling? Johnny, how are you?
I'm feeling good. I'm loving seeing the linked chat because from my end, each people on all of our different channels are seeing their respective chats, and I'm seeing both of them linked, and it's amazing because I'm seeing everyone from Jake, and they're talking trash about the Niners and all that stuff, and then I'm seeing guys on our ends that are sitting here talking about the 49ers. This is why we love football and we love rivalries, right? Because fans love it as much as anybody. And, this rivalry has really become something amazing around the NFL. I think it's one of the better ones in the NFL right now, because not only do you have the division rival, but now you have this North Cal, SoCal thing. And there's been, and you have the 49ers have the regular season, but the Rams have the most important game that they could have won against us in their pocket. So, it has become a very special rivalry, and it's been fun.
You talk about in their pocket. I think Jaquiski Tart was in the Rams' pocket, and that's why they won that game. We will not get into that today, but it is fun on our end seeing like some N Low says I'm a head out. Like, dude, it's so funny to see these comments as we're joining forces here. But so I'm gonna give you a chance, Jake, to reintroduce yourself to your fan club out there and to kind of explain how you got started and that kind of thing. So tell us Niner folks who you are.
Yeah. So I'm Jake Ellenbogen. I'm the host of Bleav in Rams, Off the Edge, which covers the NFL. So I do cover the Niners, you could say, with former Rams and Buccaneers linebacker Cameron Lynch. I'm also the host of Downtown Rams with Alexis Kraft. I write for Turf Show Times now, covering the Rams. And I also game on Kick, and I have my own show, JE Live, in which I brought countless members of media and football players, so forth. So that's pretty much me. I'm just a content creator full time. Finally, got strong enough to quit my job, and this is what I do for a living.
Awesome. I love to hear that you say that, as I'm in the same boat with a couple media companies that I own, that I'm able to just do this. And that's how I reached out to Johnny after being a true fan of his channel. And now here we are. And I've mentioned that before of how grateful I am to be a part of stuff like this, as I am just a fan, but then to be able to help host this show and to interact with the fans is so fun. I'm sure as you know, it's so fun to have like your same 30 to 40 people that show up in the chat and you're like, oh, what's up, dude? Like, you know, we love it. Which, by the way, if you are not catching this live, it may be because you have not hit the notification bell. So make sure that you like and subscribe to the YouTube channel, but that you also hit the notification bell. So are you guys ready to kind of get into the matchup? I got some questions here.
Yeah, I'm ready.
So first, I wanted to go over your guys' game, and what stood out to me for sure was seeing the TikToks and seeing the reels and watching just NFL coverage. What's the deal with DK Metcalf, and moving forward, is that always going to be a thing with him going back and forth with you guys? What is going on?
Well, all right. So I think he's soft, just mentally. I think with Jalen Ramsey now gone, I think he feels like since 5 gave him issues in the past, he can say whatever he wants. He was bodied that entire game, except for that touchdown. And so I think, the emotions got to him late in the game, and emotionally soft people do emotionally soft things. So he waited until way after the play with Akello Witherspoon and people said he pushed him. No. He really he hit him in the back. And I see people saying that's soft on Twitter. And I think, what we need to understand is you let your guard down kind of after the whistle's blown. It's like, okay, now we can jaw a little bit, but you're not you haven't braced yourself for contact because you assume the play's over. I'm going to walk back to the huddle, all of that. And so Akello is pretty much done with the play. And basically, right behind him, he gives him a little forearm, and he ends up getting a contusion of not only his hip, but his ribs as well. And to me, causing an injury that didn't have to happen and it was not a football play, to me, is worth a suspension. So I think the NFL dropped the ball here, with DK Metcalf. And the way, here's what I'll say. The 49ers and Rams are a way bigger rivalry. And we never see that. We never really see that, right? We never see that after the play. Like Debo hates the Rams. Aaron Donald hates the 49ers.
Right.
But it's been competitive. Respect. Yeah. And I just feel like maybe it's just a sign Seattle's starting to really feel the pressure of these two teams just kind of overtaking this division. I don't know. But it just seems like there's always something, like you said, with DK or somebody in that regard. And I don't know. I mean, Akello was in that Seahawks locker room as well. So that's a former teammate. I don't know, about that, but kind of messed up when you think about it.
Yeah, Akello was a guy who, he's made it through 3/4 of the NFC West. And to me, I thought that it was absolutely underwhelming. I don't even know if underwhelming is the right word for what the NFL did to DK Metcalf. A $22,000 suspension is so non-consequential for him. It's ridiculous. It made me actually look up, how much is he getting paid and how much does he make per game? And I'm looking at him going, dude's making like $350,000 a quarter. Like, not even a game, a quarter, and you slap him with a $22,000 suspension. To me, if the NFL really wants to start putting some teeth on this stuff, because if you're going to talk about player safety, then you have to make a stance here. You can't let cheap shots like that have no place in the game be in there. I mean, if that play actually happened, if an offensive player had done that during the play, that would have been a blindside block, and he's getting a penalty and a fine. And they're taking it a lot more serious. I don't know why you think a $22,000 penalty on a guy who's making over $1.3 million per game is going to do anything. To me, I think if you're going to start doing these and making play penalties, personal foul penalties and fines that have nothing to do with the play, you need to start doing this as percentage of guys' game checks or something. Because I don't want to see it go to like $150,000 and you have a guy from the practice squad who loses his cool and all of a sudden he's lost, 3 months salary or something. But I think if you have to make this to where it hurts each player equally. I mean, DK can sit there and do this 10 times a game, and it's not going to cost him anything. Eventually they'll maybe suspend him, but if a practice squad guy did what he did and got fined, that's a huge deal. But DK does it, and it's whatever, and so it's not going to stop him in any way. And this has been a history with this guy. So at some point, you have to either start saying we're taking a full game's worth of pay for you, average over your contract, or we're going to suspend you. Something. Like, I felt it was so light-handed what they did.
You said that perfectly, by the way.
He does that. He does that a lot, Jake.
He does. Yes, we had like a 2-hour show the last time we got together, so I know full well.
Yeah, it's crazy. All right, so one thing I want to find out, Jake, from you as kind of an outsider, you did say you cover kind of the Niners in that you cover the NFL as a whole, but I want to ask you, as you're not maybe diving into Niner content the way that we are, was there something that stood out to you about us in week one that maybe I know that you'll give us props and say that, hey, we have a good roster, we're a good team. I get that. But in general, 30-7 honestly did surprise me. So what were things about the game that kind of surprised you?
Yeah, so when I looked at that game, I mean, I stand by it. The Steelers are probably going to win 12 games this year. They were a really good football team. I think the Niners just ate their lunch and then some, and I really feel like it's impressive, but because we can't undermine the fact that Kyle Shanahan, like last year, started off a little sluggish, to start the season. To get that win, cross country, was impressive. It's not easy to play at Acrisure Stadium. It's not easy to spell it or say it either. But but no, when you look at it, them against the Steelers, I was so impressed. I think that when you have any sort of game and you're trying to have kind of like a kind of a barometer, like a monitor of how you want to decide how fluky a game is, right? I think a good explanation of that is when there's a certain area of your team that, say, for the Rams and Seahawks, they couldn't run the ball. They still won by 13. The Niners, they dominated, and TJ Watt still got his. If you told me before the game that TJ Watt was going to have 2 forced fumbles and 3 sacks and they were going to get destroyed, I would have said, excuse me?
Right.
And I mean, like, Pickett's stats weren't like great, but they weren't like horrible either. You know what I mean? And it's just the 40. And also, like, they took the foot off the gas. They could have won by like 50, honestly. I mean, it was bad. It's one of those games where the score doesn't even indicate how much they dominated. And when I went back and I watched that game, I'm like, can we finally start to admit that Brandon Ayuk is turning himself into a top 10 receiver in football? Like, he's unbelievable.
Yeah, absolutely. I love it all. I walked away from that game going that this could have been a 40 burger that they put on him. And yeah, like you said, TJ Watt still had 3 sacks. Colton McKivitz over there at a right tackle is kind of a worrisome position going down the rest of the season, as he's the new starter on the offensive line. But yeah, the thing that, the 49ers are a very well-rounded team, and it was really on display there. And props for saying Acrisure right. My wife actually worked for a subsidiary of Acrisure for years. So yes, I know exactly how hard it is to spell and say that.
I haven't seen a Steeler fan that was happy about that, since that happened. They're like, how do you get rid of Heinz Field? It's so simple. I'm like, I don't know. They paid a lot of money for it.
Yeah, no kidding. What was let's get into your Rams matchup in week one. What really surprised you? I was definitely shocked. I mean, going into Seattle is it just is, as much as we hate to admit it, as we both have a common foe in Seattle, we can both admit we just don't like them. But the way that you ball control, passing yards, like those were numbers that we talked about in our last show that jumped off the page. And like, what were some of the factors there? What did you see as you really dive into it?
So when I dove into the game, because I did a all 22 watch party essentially with my audience, and what I found that I mean, this to what surprised me, it's kind of hard to say, because, I really felt like everything that I've been hearing, like from camp and just people that I've talked to within the organization, like they've done a lot of work on this offense. It's why they brought in LaFleur. They wanted to rebuild it from the ground up, essentially. And that's really what I saw. So I feel like everything I was told and that I was saying, and I'm like, all right, I'm getting this information. I'm putting in my analysis. Like, they made me look smart. But one thing that surprised me was Puka Nacua, because I thought Puka Nacua would have a solid game, but just to come out, have 15 targets, catch 10 of them for 119 yards. And we're talking about, like, Stafford missed him by an eyelash on another, like, 40-yard bomb. I mean, he was unbelievable. People would probably say Tutu Atwell was surprising, but I've been saying for a while, like, this, and he's the X factor in this game. But I mean, I've been saying for a while that, Atwell is better than people give him credit for. And really what happened was when the Rams drafted him, everyone is so used to that size and seeing Tavon Austin and having him get that second contract where people were like, how does he get that? Like, how do you pay him that? And so I think, they use kind of that preconceived bias with that stature, the 5'8", 5'9", and they're like, oh yeah, he's just a gadget guy. No, he can do more than that. But to, answer your question, the thing that surprised me was Puka Nacua. And I would also say, to be fair, Darion Kendrick, who I was very worried about coming in that game, thought they should have started the rookie 6th rounder, Trey Tomlinson, after what he did in preseason. But Darion Kendrick only had one really bad play. Of course, that was the touchdown with DK, but he was unbelievable. When I went back and I watched the film, I was really impressed with him.
Johnny, did you have a chance to see some of that?
Yeah, I watched the film. I was, like I said, I've been laid up sick this week, and I think it was Wednesday. I put on the Rams film to see, what was the deal with the game. I first watched the game in 40 that you can get on Game Pass, just to get a quick overview from the broadcast angle and an idea of the game, and then put on the game film. And the thing that really surprised me was how much this Rams offense looked like 2017, 2018 Rams. Was how it looked like McVay went back to, we're going to establish the run, we're going to stick with the run, and then we're going to do all the play action off of it. There wasn't as much just drop back passing. And then when they were able to protect. And a lot of that was, again, set up by their resilience with sticking to the run. Now, it wasn't extremely productive, but it allowed them to stay in their offense and stay in that. And this didn't look like 2019, 20, 21 Rams. This looked like 2017, 2018 Rams. And that is the thing that I think going forward, if I'm the 49ers, I'm looking at, I'm a little worried about, because that is something that if you get that Rams team back to that, now you start looking a lot more like San Francisco's offense. And
right.
you're because it's same system, but there's so much that you can do off of that, and it's becoming so much more cohesive. And I think that's why you were able to see a guy like Puka Nacua, who when I was watching it, it wasn't like I was sitting there going, okay, this guy's just beating everybody in man coverage or whatever. But he's understanding where to fit in zones, where to throttle down, where to sit. And it's playing off of their run game, and it's playing off of everything they're doing, and how comfortable Matt Stafford looked in that. I mean, there was one play I remember. It was like a 3.8 seconds to throw. It was a deep scissors concept that he threw down the hash. He looked as comfortable as it can be, and he's launching the ball. I think it was about a 20 or 25-yard pass downfield. And the anticipation that Matt Stafford threw with, he threw it into the window well before the receiver was there. It was one of those plays you go, okay, if this is what the Rams are looking like, that's pretty tough. With the way that they were able to just sit in that offense and work the zones. And you could see it wasn't like Seattle just was overmatched from a scheme standpoint, where they were just, we're going to play this and we just keep getting beat on this because we think we can win. No, Seattle was trying everything. They played a lot of quarters coverage. They played a lot of man. They were trying fire zones. They're playing matching zones. And it was like everything that they came with, at some point, McVay had an answer. It wasn't always right away, but if Seattle sat there in a matching zone too long, then they were going to get a mismatch in that matching zone. and they were going to hit. They hit I believe it was a tight end on wheel route on one of those down the sideline. And if you're going to sit there and just straight drop back zones, they threw it underneath. If you're going cover 3 and in your vision techniques, then they're going to let Stafford just drop back, and he's hitting balls deep down the field. And they just kept at the run. It was only like 2.3 yards a gain, but it allowed them to stay in that offense and allowed them to stay in rhythm. And, it was really impressive to watch. The game was closer than I thought after looking at the final score, as far as, down how close the score was. I mean, and what was really impressive was LA's second half defense.
Oh my God, I know.
I mean, that was really impressive how they controlled the line of scrimmage. And I'll say Byron Young was a guy. I went to the Senior Bowl this year, and Byron Young was a guy that I came away from the Senior Bowl wishing we could draft, because what I loved about him was that I don't think he has the highest ceiling that of anybody coming out of the Senior Bowl, because he's an older guy. Most people don't realize he's older. He's not a 22-year-old coming out of college. I think he's like 25, 26. And that he's already in his grown man body. So he's not going to be growing into a more mature body. And so what I loved about Byron Young from our perspective was I felt we could plug him in and you were going to get immediate production. And you saw that week 1 was that you plug him in and get immediate production. And so I was bummed when I saw him go to the Rams.
I'll say this right now. His speed, his athleticism, I knew it. The power, he destroyed Charles Cross. So, like, when you hear Seahawks fans say, well, this happened because Charles Cross was out and Abraham Luke, I'm like, he was destroying Charles Cross. It didn't matter who was in there. So, yeah, I do think that's still a big concern for the Rams moving forward is their edge presence. I'm sure you saw it. It's Michael Hoyt, who's, let's be honest here. Like, I'm being nice about it. Like, he's got a nice story. I appreciate him. He's not a starting, NFL outside linebacker. He's just not. And so, I think they feel really good about Byron Young. But I would be stunned if this team is competitive, like I believe they're going to be, like, because I haven't won 10 games this year. If they're that competitive, they will be trading for I won't say elite, but like a really good pass rusher. Wouldn't be surprised at the deadline.
You think Chase Young is on the table?
I'd love Chase Young, but even I'm starting to kind of, do the moonwalk a little bit there, because here's why. The injuries. It's a constant with him, and I just don't see something like that getting better over the course of his career, playing that type of position, doing those type of things. So, I look at maybe if the Patriots get off to a slow start, maybe a Josh Uche, somebody like that, Rashawn Gary, although it looks like the Packers are going to be better than I thought just through week 1.
The Bears are that bad.
or the Bears are that. Well, that's the hope, right? Because then, Rashawn would be available. But I think the Rams, what I was told is that the Rams are going to look at more so those expiring contract type of guys, and with the, potential to sign those guys, right, and be long-term pieces. The Rams will not make another Von Miller move. They're not all in like that. But if they do make a move, it would be for like a Jonathan Taylor. It would be for like a Brian Burns, somebody like that, kind of coincides with the future, but also can help you win now. Yeah.
I will say, Curtis Robinson really impressed me in that game. And I, from his film, and he's a guy I think that you have a solid piece on that defense for a long time. And so when I looked at the defense, I was okay, you got an Aaron Donald, Byron Young looked strong. Curtis Robinson, he was all over the field, and I felt like he played the run very well. And I'm going, man, the Rams are starting to look like they got some pieces here.
So who are you referring to? Because I don't know a Curtis Robinson. I'm trying to think who you're
56.
56. No, Roseboom?
Christian
Roseboom?
54.
54.
It was, or 50. It was one of the 50s. I've been sick this week. I want to say it was Curtis Robinson, but I could have been wrong. I looked it up online.
Long hair
live show. Yeah, I'll have to now go back and look. You got me all questioning myself.
Yeah, no, well, because I hear it all the time. Like, people will be like, oh, like this guy. And like, it's not like I'm trying to be like, oh, I know more than you. I just want, like, you're giving good analysis, and I want people to know exactly
I want to say it was 54 or 56.
So it's probably Roseboom.
Linebacker. Yeah.
So you're higher on him than I am.
But I want to say it was Curtis Robinson the fourth, but I must have missed it around there, or I was looking at like an old roster thing because I don't follow. That's right. Curtis Robinson is from the Steelers. That's why I'm thinking of Curtis. Robinson.
He's on the Steelers.
Yeah, okay. Somebody had that on there.
Okay,
man, I told you I was sick, but I do remember it was a linebacker. Number 56, I think. So,
well, hey, that's good analysis. Curtis Robinson the fourth on Steelers. I didn't know that.
Now he was okay, but no, it was your linebacker. I do remember that.
Oh, okay.
It was your linebacker. He was everywhere. I remember just being all over the field. I'll have to now go back and look at it, but I was impressed with it. And now. And it was because sometimes people say, well, you could play behind Aaron Donald and everybody's going to look good. No. He looked better than I thought some of the stuff I saw from Bobby Wagner last year.
Okay.
And
that's huge.
Yeah. So, I mean, just as far as explosiveness, getting to his zone drops, like I thought he was doing a really good job there. And I will say, the defense as well, the scheme looked tighter than it had been in the past. I felt like in the past with the Rams, when you watched them, a lot of it was relying upon the star power, and so it would be a lot of one-on-one matchups, and we're gonna try and slow down the release of the receivers and let the rush get there. This seemed like a really cohesive defensive scheme, and that's one thing I really was impressed with too with the Rams.
So I have a question regarding what Jake and Johnny have said about the run game with the Rams. If you're trying to establish and look like the team a few years ago, one thing that I want to talk through is the Steelers had 41 yards rushing with not a crappy offensive line, you wouldn't say, and not a crappy running back from Alabama, right? That we wouldn't say either. So I want to talk through what the thought is on, are the Rams just going? Yeah, it's one thing to say we want to establish the run. However, if our heat-seeking missile and Bosa and them are just stopping it and you're getting 1.7 yards, are you just going to keep going? Or are you saying, no, we'll be able to get 4.2 yards, not 1.7? What is the deal? What gives? What do you think, Jake?
Great point that you're bringing up here. I think that they are going to try doing what they did last week against Seattle. Because I think they are going out there knowing, hey, we may not be great in the run game early on in the season, but it's a big part of what we're trying to do. You're trying to establish consistency. You're trying to essentially, establish, a routine. And I understand routines in football, not the greatest thing because then you become predictable. But that's exactly so. Like Sean McVay will literally abandon the run normally based on last year. I mean, he came out and said, I don't want to run the ball because I don't feel like we're going to get any yards with it. This year, he stuck with it in that first game, 40 carries, about 38 passing attempts from Stafford. And while it doesn't do a lot, when you're, Seattle was selling out to stop the run. First off, the 49ers won't have to do that. They're that good against the run regardless.
Right.
But I think the important thing here is for people to know this is essentially the definition of throwing body blows. And eventually that guy's going to go down for the count, and you're going to set up the haymaker. And so that's really what the Rams are doing with that, is that they're trying to set up that big haymaker. They had it with Nakua, just right outside his catch radius. They had it with Atwell. I think when you look at this run game, I hate to walk back like, a big prediction of mine was Cam Akers going for 1,200 yards this year. I hate to walk it back, but I mean, Johnny, you saw the game. Do you feel good about Cam Akers moving forward? I know he has slow starts to the season, but like if I'm, of the Rams right now, like Kyron Williams offers that intrigue. When he's in the backfield, it's like he can run it. He can, get the ball in as a pass catcher. He can go out and like actually run routes, and he could also pass protect. But when Cam Akers is in there getting 22 carries out of whatever 28 snaps he had, there's not a lot of intrigue. So it's like a tell to the defense. But I want to ask you, Johnny, I mean, I think Cam Akers, and he was so good the last 6 games of the year, and his stats are really bad to start. Like, he gets off to, notoriously slow starts, but I don't know if he fits this offense. And you're more of the X's and O's guy than I am, to be fair. So I'm curious what you think about that, because I know they went more like gap scheme runs in this game than they have in the past. I'm sure you picked up on that. But I don't know if Cam Akers fits this offense. And maybe it's his fault, maybe it's not, because he's not being utilized much in the passing game. But I don't know if he fits it, because when Kyron's in there, he's like a jitterbug, right? Like he's bouncing off tackles and whatnot. Cam, it's a little, lackadaisical. He added weight. I don't see as much explosiveness as I saw. I understand it's 1 game sample size, but I don't know. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, a lot with that. Somebody did here in the chat. They got it. It was Ernest Jones, number 3, Ernest Jones the 4th. That's the linebacker that I was thinking about.
Phenomenal.
Yeah, he was really, really good in that game. That's who it was. Thank you, Rams chat, for that. But I think you're 100% right. Cam Akers, you hit the key word, explosiveness. It wasn't there. When I saw Kyron Williams come in, that dude was explosive. When he would take off, it was like he was shot out of a cannon. He hits 0 to 100 in an instant. So his acceleration, I don't think his top speed is what you would expect from maybe an elite running back, because it didn't seem like in the open field like he was just going to be that home run hitter, but he got to his top speed almost instantly. I mean, the speed with which he would hit the hole was almost frightening. And it was really weird. The run game looked so much slower when Cam Akers was in. And it just, that burst was not there. And, he was a guy that when I watched him, he fit really well in the wide zone kind of scheme of reading it off that 4-5 technique and making that cut, either hitting the edge or cutting back in. When it was about hitting the hole on time in a gap scheme, that burst wasn't there. And so, because I was coming away from it going, if I was the Rams, I'd be putting Kyron Williams in there a lot more. It's just because he looked like he had something to him. He looked like a guy that you could get a hole open about this big for just, a tenth of a second, and he's going to get you 6 yards, is what it looked like. He was the guy that I thought really was most of their production in the run game, is what it felt like when you come away from the game. I mean, you could look at the stats and say, well, maybe not, but I mean, just your impression from watching the game really quickly, you walk away and you said, well, man, that Kyron Williams hit some good runs.
So I want to get a prediction on in the chat as well, everywhere, Rams chat, Niners chat, the universe chat. And Jake, what is your prediction rushing yards by the Rams? And in the chat, go crazy. Type in your number. Jake, what's your number?
I'm going to say the Rams are under 70 for the day. I think we'll probably see the majority will be Kyron. But I think they're going to be able to throw the ball more than people do.
I think it's going to be probably 65. I think if the game went exactly how they want, it's going to be 25 rushes for 65 yards.
Tommy says 10. That's by Stafford, right? A scramble.
Yeah. I mean, if the game goes how San Francisco wants it to go, it's going to be 22. It just depends. So much of the run game with both of these guys is dependent on the flow of the game, in that they both want to run the ball, but they're not afraid to throw it to keep giving them their run game chances. And both of these, like you said, it's like body blows. Both teams love to come at the run game like body blows, in that they're going to keep chopping because they're shooting for that home run. And, and they go for the home run a little bit differently. McVay is going to go for that home run off of a big play action pass. Kyle Shanahan is going to go for that home run off of a big run. And you saw that against the Steelers, right? There was a 65-yard touchdown run. Kyle Shanahan loves explosives in the run game. And, So they're both shooting for that home run, but they've got to set it up with those body blows, and whoever I think is able to convert third downs more is going to be the one that ends up able to get their run game going.
So X factors, if we get into, obviously the run game is an X factor. Jake, based on what you've seen in game one from both teams here and knowing the matchup that 8-0, first, this is a two-part question. First, I'm just curious, like, what do Rams fans think of the lopsidedness? Like, I really can't fathom it. As a Niner fan, I was born in San Jose. I live in the Midwest now. I'm Niner through and through, but even I am a little taken back by, like, dude, how do you do this in your own division? That's not a thing. Like, this doesn't happen. The Ravens don't beat the Steelers like 8 times. Like, you know what I mean? Like, what is the take of Rams fans? Is it just you're over it? You want to get over it? Is it a respect thing? Because the two coaches were buddies in Washington. Like, what does that look like? And then the second part is, what is the other X factor for tomorrow's game that you need to see in order for the Rams to win?
Well, I think the first one, I'll answer your question with a question itself. You want tough or fluff for the answer?
I mean, I want you to keep it as real. Like, this audience can handle it.
Okay. So in all honesty, like, for me, it's annoying, but it doesn't bother me because, like, and here's the thing, like, the Rams, when Kyle Shanahan was first hired, like, the Rams pounded on the Niners. And I think that was what Johnny was going back to with the 2017-18 offense. Like, oh no, when they had that was a problem. I think really the Niners after that, when they got their quarterback, they went all out it was really it was a respectful thing towards the Rams. And I think we talked about this last year, Johnny, if I'm not mistaken. The 49ers built their team to destroy the Rams, not just beat them, destroy them. A lot of who they went out and grabbed in drafts and so forth was to annihilate the Rams, go after their weaknesses, and really become their Achilles heel. Yeah. And it makes a lot of sense when you think about it, because if you feel like the only team that's really going to stop you from getting to the Super Bowl are the Los Angeles Rams, then you should find a way to, beat them and find a way to really not just beat them, but make them, you're their kryptonite. And so I think that's what the Niners successfully have done. I think Sean McVay, his kind of, I guess, his play after that was to go out and get Mike LaFleur, try and know a little bit more about what's going on with the Niners. And obviously they've changed things since LaFleur's been there. But I also think he is going to help Sean McVay balance out the pass and the run. So when you're talking to Rams, it really depends. I think the LA-based Rams fans, especially the ones that told me that we're tanking for Caleb Williams, which isn't a real thing and never was. They said if we win one game, it has to be against the Niners. And it's almost like I feel like it means more. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying it doesn't mean anything to beat the Niners, but for me in upstate New York, like I look at that Niners loss in the NFC title game and I'm like, I'm good. I still think the Rams are going to get back to the Super Bowl in the next 3 years. And I still look at it as if like, and I get all sorts of people in my mentions like, oh, Niners Empire, Niners this, Niners that. One, they don't respect the NFL championships the Rams won. I noticed that never comes up. That still should count. That's the first thing I'll say. The second thing is, like, when someone who's younger than me is talking about how many Super Bowls the Niners have, I'm like just laughing because I'm like, you've never even seen a Super Bowl in your lifetime, bro.
Right.
Like, and it's the same, but understand this, you got to be consistent, right? I don't want to be like talk this side of my mouth and this side, because I am consistent, because like with the Yankees, I'm a Yankee fan. I don't go 27 world championships because you sound like a moron, because I wasn't there for Babe Ruth and Lou Gehrig and Reggie Jackson. And, so I don't deserve to claim that. But my thing here is that really when you talk about people that care more about the ball side of it, you're looking at like Jake and Johnny right here. Is that like, it's kind of fun, but I'm more focused on like year in and year out, and not really about like, oh, we've won 8 times or we've lost 8 times or whatever. It's annoying, but like, I'm not sitting here like irked every single time it happens. I've just kind of accepted it, and I'm glad, the one time, if they were going to win one of those games, I'm glad they waited until when it actually mattered the most.
Yeah, that one's hard. As Niners fans, that one's hard to swallow. I mean, just because the team was so injured, and I know people excuses. All right, when you got a backup tackle taking on Von Miller, and that's no good for anybody, and plus your quarterback's held together by duct tape at that point. That's no good, and your other tackles on one leg, and I mean, it was one of those games that. God, it was, as a Niner fan, you're sitting there going, yeah, that 8-0 is great, but if we were going to lose one of them, I really wish it would have been during the regular season and not that one, because the same way, because I felt like whoever won that game was going to win the Super Bowl.
I really did too. And I feel like what needs to be said and isn't said enough, because I hear all the time how the Rams bought this, the Rams bought that, is that they were also really banged up. They lost Jordan Fuller in that game. They lost Higbee. I mean, they were banged up in the Super Bowl. So when I hear Bengals fans complaining, I'm like, man, you had a completely healthy roster, pretty much. And so, it was like a lot of Rams fans, because I heard it all in November, the no-win November. I heard this team's not winning the Super Bowl. You were wrong. Just admit it. I'm like, no, this team's absolutely winning the Super Bowl, because Matthew Stafford is going to prove everyone that he can win playoff games. And it was always just being in Detroit and not having a defense. And so, I think when I look at just everything that transpired that year, I think the most disappointing thing was not just losing OBJ in the Super Bowl, not like Tyler Higbee not being able to play, not losing Andrew Whitworth and having him miss the divisional round of the playoffs. It was kind of cool having Eric Weddle come in and be a starter in the Super Bowl and just throughout the playoffs. But the most disappointing thing to me is a guy who really was one of the foundational pieces to the Rams' McVay Snead era, and that was Robert Woods. And when he tore his ACL, I was at a Devils game, and I got a leak from somebody in the organization with a burner account, and I didn't make anything of it. They're like, Robert Woods tore an ACL, and I was like, this is stupid. I didn't realize he was giving me the inside scoop. So I blew it off, and I went back to enjoy my Devils hockey game. And then I got the news, and I'm like, you can't be serious, because it was all about, and people forget this because just time has gone on. OBJ was supposed to be with Robert Woods, Cooper Kupp, Van Jefferson. And a lot of Rams fans felt like, they got screwed out of not winning the Super Bowl when, let's be honest here, that 2018 team was the best team in football. And the real Super Bowl, you could argue, was that Monday Night Football game against the Chiefs, who were the best AFC team. But the problem is it doesn't work that way, right? And so, not having Cooper Kupp in that Super Bowl and Todd Gurley and just missing out on everything he had and how his career was cut short, it was nice to finally see things coming back together. So just that they were able to overcome all those losses and everything, I think that's the thing, is that, because I've heard that a lot, and I will admit the 49ers were banged up, but the Rams were really banged up in that whole playoff run. And I feel like that's something throughout history that always gets forgotten. They didn't have one running back outside of Sony Michel that had an ankle intact. You know what I'm saying? In the Super Bowl, yeah. Darrell Henderson, his ankle was so taped. It was complete. He had a high ankle sprain he should not have played on. Was huge in that game for them. Cam Akers was fresh off an Achilles tear in the same calendar year, just about. He just missed it. You know what I'm saying? It was a remarkable run, and it was something that, you don't want to say you deserved, you earned, but they had the number one defense in 2020, and then that whole thing with Jared Goff and the finger and everything, and then they had, the number one offensive player, outside of the quarterback position, Todd Gurley, and you don't win a Super Bowl with him, and everything that happens in the 2018 year. So it was good to finally get one of those, okay, this is, I guess, the karma moment, being a Rams fan. And I could speak for Rams fans in that regard, seeing the same old sorry ass Rams, 15-65. I forget the actual number, but I could tell you every quarterback that started for them. So I think it was just like one of those moments where, man, it felt good to finally be on top and actually like it worked out, you know?
Yeah. And, you know, and I think the 8 regular season wins, but losing the NFC Championship game is why we love the rivalry.
Yeah.
I mean, it's both, because both teams have that, but
Right.
It's so true.
We can go for 4 hours
so,
with the buts. But this and no, it's awesome to be able to. This is fun to engage with people who can actually hold a conversation. Sometimes you have those fans that, and it's just like ridiculous talking to them.
Oh yeah,
it's just so
goes.
this is actually healthy. We can get stuff talked about, and we didn't want to mention the super chat. Gammon Brown lets everyone answer. He wants to know, what is your favorite song right now? Man, what a question that is. That is difficult.
That's loaded.
Oh, now?
Yeah, what's your favorite song right now?
Man, Gammon's awesome, by the way. Comes in my stream all the time. Damn, this is tough. I mean, it's tough because I would probably say, I don't know if you guys are into like metal, but I'd probably say the new Avenged Sevenfold song, Mattel, which probably should have been the Barbie theme. Kind of joking, not really, but it's based on that, just a little bit darker. I'd probably say that, or the AI the AI metal cover, the AI metal version. There's not even a version. It's just like Plankton from SpongeBob. There's an AI metal song, and it is just unbelievable. It shouldn't be that good. It shouldn't be that catchy, but it is. So I'd say those two.
Man, I'm throwing around a few right now. I've kind of gone back to sticking with Avenged Sevenfold, Critical Acclaim Live. The live version of that. I love it. Something about it. You know, I've been listening to some Seven Dust recently. So
okay, here we go, Johnny.
Yeah. You know, maybe throw it in that kind of era. I don't know if I could say there's a favorite, but you know, those are going to be some go-tos for me.
I've met Seven Dust when they played here in the Midwest.
Oh my God, you guys like good music. It's such a breath of fresh air. I don't even care what happens this Sunday. Now that I know you guys like good music, you guys can be happy. No, I'm kidding. But still, where is all the good music? Why is it every time, like, you know, I don't love highlights, but I go on YouTube and it's like sometimes that's all you have to work with. I just want to see what player we just picked up, right? And it's always like like the ridiculous like pounding bass and like, you know, just mumble lyrics, and it's like, oh, good Lord, man. I'm over it, if you can't tell. I'm just absolutely over it at this point. And I'm metal all the way. I mean, I like rock, I like subgenres, but yeah, it feels so nice that you guys actually like good music.
Yeah, I'm all down with that stuff. That's cool. All right, let's get back into the game for tomorrow. What is the one thing that cannot happen for the Rams? Like, what is one thing that if it's the second quarter even and you see this, you're like, oh gosh, I don't know. Like, is there one thing, or is it a multitude?
Well, I can tell you right now, Stafford's jersey, which is going to be white, and we're not even going to get into the fact that they're letting the 49ers wear red uniforms.
Oh, okay. Hold on. We have to get into that because know that we call, because no, we're not letting you off the hook here, because Niner fans love crushing Rams. And first of all, let me say this. I get it that the Rams in LA was not always like a thing. Like, I get it. And so it's a little bit unfair when California has had the Niners the whole time, and there are people that move and like, but when we say Levi South, like you understand it really is when there's 65% of red and it's everywhere.
I get what you're saying.
It was bad. In Dallas, it's bad. It's just that way. But to let us wear what is the thought there?
I don't know the thought process. I don't know at all. It makes no sense. I mean, to now have to so they're wearing white, but then we're all telling everybody to wear blue. Like, but anyway, but no. Here's what I'm gonna say, and this is the tough, the tougher fluff. This is the tough, and I know your fan base can handle it. I know I'm gonna get hate for it, But like the problem I have with Levi's South, like that name, it wouldn't bother me so much if like Levi's was actually like a really state-of-the-art stadium. It is so generic. It's
That's
such
fair.
a disrespect to what Kroenke built in that SoFi Stadium. And yeah, the Chargers, they don't even pay their rent there. But you get the point. SoFi Stadium is state-of-the-art. Like if it was like Minnesota, right? Minnesota's stadium is unbelievable. Like if it was like Vegas, right? Like the Raiders, if they want to say something South, I don't even know what their thing is called, Allegiant South, like whatever.
Right.
I'd be okay with that, except it'd be wrong. But still, I'd be okay with that. Levi's is like MetLife. Like I'm not trying to hate Jets fans because like I covered the Jets last year, but like MetLife is just kind of a generic football stadium, right? Like it would be in like a video game. It'd be the basis of how they use the stadium for a video game that can't get the NFL rights to the stadiums, right? So that would be how a stadium would look. It's so generic, and like to say like Levi, it's like no. How about like just say it like it's our SoFi? I'd be okay with that. Like if you want to claim SoFi is yours, just do that. Levi South is generic. It's like a popcorn kernel versus ice cream. I'll take ice cream all day for the snack. That's just my.
That's fair.
I will say I've never had the privilege of being in Levi's Stadium, but it really does remind you. I don't remember from the old Madden games where you could, relocate your team in the franchise mode and build your own stadium, and it was always like 12 options, and that was it.
Yeah,
and Levi's literally looks like it's come out of somebody built it in Madden franchise mode.
Exactly,
it really does. Yeah. I mean, now I get it. They were trying to make it to have the most seats in the lower 2/3 of the stadium than any other stadium. I get all that, but fans even didn't really love the atmosphere at Levi's for a long time. I've been to Candlestick. That was it was Candlestick's one of those things. If anybody's never been to Candlestick, when you go there, you realize why they were jonesing for a new stadium for so long, because it was not a nice stadium at all, but it had such a character. And there was, and it had a lot of character because there's a lot of great moments there, but there was just something to it. It was funky. It was weird. It was kind of like San Francisco, and in a lot of ways, and it didn't make sense, but it still worked. And so, Levi's, you're right. It's very generic, and SoFi is a gorgeous stadium.
Yeah.
And, maybe we'll have to stop calling it Levi South. We'll call it, I don't know. We'll figure out something.
Like even if you just claim South, SoFi, like whatever, I don't even care. But like I just get Levi's out of here. I don't even want to buy their jeans of how freaking generic that. I mean, anyway.
That's funny. I get that, but now again, why would you
Girardelli South? We'll call it Girardelli.
When
the famous San Francisco chocolate company.
Yeah. Oh, okay. All right. You want to say that? I'm okay with it.
When as a franchise that Niner fans are coming to your stadium just like they have the last 3 years and show out, I just don't see why you would let them wear their home unis. Like
I don't know. I mean, I'll say this. I don't mean to be disrespectful. I don't know why the Rams do some of the things they do. That's one of them. I don't know why that they were going to have uniforms this year and last year and next year, and now they pushed it off to 2025 when they're telling everybody that like the bone uniforms that, by the way, I kind of like, and I definitely like the bone pants that go with like the blue jersey. I don't know why like they're now throwing in the towel. Like it's not the away anymore. They only do it twice this year. So it's like they do things like that where it's like, okay, well, if you've already tossed the original uniform away, why wouldn't you bring in another alternate? Like, you know what I mean? They do stuff like that. And I'm just like, I don't really know. Like people are asking me like, Jake, why are they wearing red? Dude, I have no idea. Like I don't have the slightest clue, because what you're thinking and what I'm thinking is the exact same thing. Like I don't know. It doesn't make any sense. I wouldn't mind red as much if they were wearing blue. I think it'd be kind of cool. If they were going solids, like, to adolescent teenagers would absolutely do if they were playing Madden together. But I would like that a lot more than like, yeah. And also no yellow pants. Like I like the blue pants like last week, like that was great and all, but like, that's not your primary. Don't try to make that your primary. What are you doing right now? So that's, I mean, a lot of different things out there, but yeah, I agree with you.
Crazy. So, okay. Yeah. Then get into, what things that you talked about Stafford's jersey, but then you never actually got into it. Things
Oh,
that
yeah.
cannot happen.
Yes. So Stafford's jersey is going to be white. And then yeah, we went off on a tangent there.
I love it. I love
It
it.
needs to stay white though. Like if that's like covered in, that can't happen. He needs to be protected because I'll tell you right now, the Rams can win this game. They can. They're not supposed to. This is not a game anyone, including myself, believes the Rams like should win. Right? It's a game that they could win. And I think just really, even if they don't have a run game and they stick by it, still wears down the defense a little bit. The one thing they cannot go about is not having a passing attack, not being able, and you got to keep Stafford clean. And like last week, they didn't give up a sack. They only allowed 5 pressures. Say what you will. I mean, Seattle has some good players. I really like Nwosu, Darrell Taylor, Boy Mafe. They have some guys that can rush the passer. It's not the 49ers. It's just not. Hargrave, I've been watching him since he was with the Steelers. He is a monster, okay? And I don't even know how you got him, but it happened. I was like, oh my God, they got Hargrave. Hargrave, Armstead.
That's how we feel too.
Drake Jackson, and I think a lot of people who didn't see that Niners game are going to be like, oh, Drake Jackson, he didn't do anything last year. He's a bust. No, he had 3 sacks last week, in case you didn't know. Nick Bosa, who we've kind of talked about a little bit, like he's coming back. He didn't exactly have the best game he could have had last week. So, I mean, he's going to be chomping at the bit. You got Debo, who, I mean, if Debo has been somewhat exposed and he's not the best anymore, at the wide receiver spot for the Niners, that will go away very quickly against the Rams. That dude always plays his best against the Rams. He is so hard to bring down. But no, going back to what I was saying, that Matthew Stafford has to be protected because you are going to have to involve Tutu Atwell. You're going to have to involve Puka Nacua. Van Jefferson is going to have to be a part of this game. Tyler Higbee, it's all hands on deck. But the only way that can happen is if Matthew Stafford has time to throw the ball. He is, in my opinion, the best quarterback we saw last week. Okay? I don't think it was even really close, aside from maybe Tua Tagovailoa. And I will give Brock Purdy a lot of credit. He looked really good. But I feel like if you want him to be Matthew Stafford of old, it's very easy. Just protect him. And they did it last week. They have to do it this week. This is a huge test. And I'll tell you right now, if they're able to protect him against this defensive front, if it looks like last week, the Rams are going to be a real problem all over the NFL, regardless of how this game goes. If they win or if they lose, whatever. The idea of being able to protect Stafford against this front, I can't even fathom. Like, I'm thinking at least 3 sacks. So if he has a clean jersey and he has all day to throw, the Rams they're coming for everyone this year. I'm telling you that right now.
I think that if he stays clean, they're definitely not 7-point dogs at home, which does not happen, by the way. I mean, they're getting no respect, which I don't even agree with being 7-point dogs at home. So we all picked in Niner country. We did our picks earlier this week, and they were all pretty much at least 10-point wins. And sure, for a fan to say that, but when Vegas is giving 7 points, it's like, as Randy Daytona says, bookies don't fool around. Yeah. And so I do think if that is a huge, huge deal, if we somehow cannot get to the quarterback. Now, what I want to know, Johnny, do you think that McVay obviously knows us? Is that where more screen passes? Are you looking for that as a defense? If you're Fred Warner and those guys, do you think there's a way to combat that? Or is that even what they're going to do, Johnny?
Well, I think, in the games past, you've seen McVay has tried to do some things like that. Like you've seen some of the shovel screens shovel screens and jailbreak screens. And I remember last year, Talanoa Hufanga took one of those back to the house, right? And so they want to do those things, but you also can't do that if the 49ers are coming up and they're challenging the receivers, which I think they're going to try and do to try and help that pass rush get home. What I think what I think the 49ers want to do is they want to get after Stafford, and that means they want him to try and go down the field. And so they're going to, if there's one place they're going to give them a little bit, it's going to be, you can hold the ball for 3.5 seconds and try and go down the field, because we think we're going to create some negatives that way.
Yeah.
And for the cat and mouse is going to be, can the Rams play ball control? Because if you look at how these games have gone, when the Rams have been able to ball control, that's when San Francisco struggled. You look at the NFC Championship game, they had what, like 2 17, 16 play drives in that game where they just kept converting. It was like third down after third down after third down. When, if you look at the very first game that they played against each other that year, 2021, that the 49ers won like 30-6. Stafford threw 2 real bad picks going deep. You know, that's what they want to do. But if they can keep it to ball control, if I'm the 49ers, I'm saying there's one thing that you can't let happen is let the Rams dictate ball control to you. You have to force the issue. You have to force them to hold the ball a little bit longer, to try and go farther downfield. You can't let them just hand it off, get 2 yards, get 3 yards, hit a 7-yard hitch. You can't do that. Stafford will eat you alive, and your pass rush will get slowed down on that. So you have got to, establish and dominate that line of scrimmage, and make them, and as the in pass coverage, you have to then try and take away things short. I think you're going to see a lot of shallow 2 zones here if you can. If I'm the 49ers, that's what I'm looking at. Or I'm looking at a lot of palms coverage, the things that where I can try and take away things short, keep the safeties relatively close to the line of scrimmage, and get that, because, like he said, Stafford looked really, really good last week. I mean, I came away from that film going, wow, dang, he made some ridiculous throws, throws down the field, throws sidearm throws over the middle, and it was because he just looked as comfortable as can be. You cannot let Stafford be comfortable there. Now, containing San Francisco's front is another thing. Like you said, you got Javon Hargrave in there, you got Eric Armstead, who's been very productive, you got Nick Bosa, and then Drake Jackson and Cleveland Farrell have both been rotating there on the edge and being productive. So, that'll be fun to watch, to see that, because I think that's going to be the real test on the Rams' offensive side of the ball.
One quick question too, Jake. As we know, on our side, we followed closely with the elbow of Brock Purdy, and we have known he's good to go, whatever. I don't know, just as a Niners fan, enough about Stafford, and with his coming back, is he, all reports saying basically he's just 100% and it's not even a thought, or what is the idea there?
So it's funny, you queued me up because I actually forgot to mention this when I was talking about the Super Bowl team. Stafford was reportedly 60% the entire season. What he was doing is just unreal, right? And then this past year, he doesn't get on the same page with Van Jefferson because, basically Van Jefferson's injured. And then Allen Robinson comes in. And Allen Robinson, a lot of people don't know this, was getting the ball from John Wolford all of camp. Stafford and him did not connect at all because Stafford was, nursing that elbow. So this year, he is 100% healthy. He has not been healthier in the last decade. It was described to me like it's like old Stafford. Like he lost weight. He got lighter for essentially to keep the playbook open. More bootlegs, like trying to keep him more mobile, open up things. And I think it's working out. And the Rams, like, they kind of changed their archetype this year with like offensive linemen. They're going more beefier than like maulers, and more like mauling, but not as much technician. And I think that's also something that we've seen. So, I think when you look at Stafford, I mean, yeah, he is literally in the best shape he's been in quite some time. And that should scare the entire NFL.
Yeah, I really didn't know that, and that is for sure scary for us. We've given our predictions for the scores and stuff and what we think. I'm curious, it is very refreshing, again, I will say, and I'll remind the chat, if you are watching us live, remember to hit the hashtag JD49. If you are not catching us live, it may be because you have not hit the notification bell. So remember to do that as you subscribe to the channel. Happy to report the subscribers are on the up and up for the channel. So we appreciate that. But I want to ask you, Jake, and again, tell you that it's so refreshing to talk to a Rams fan without getting into an argument over stupid stuff and being level-headed. I truly, as a fan, enjoy that, and I'm grateful to be a part of the channel to do that. But so I want to ask you, as a level-headed fan, what is just your all-out prediction for the score?
Yeah. So before I say the prediction of the score, I just want to mention, because I haven't really made mention of it, I think Tutu Atwell, the way, if you guys saw the Miami Dolphins game, I think they're going to use him very similarly. They did last week to how Tyreek Hill was used, but I think they're going to go more all in on that, which I think will open up some opportunities. I think they're going to try to create chaos and, get different looks. So I think it's going to be a close game. And I do think that, when you look at the Rams going into this one, I think they're going to be leading at the end of this game, but I don't think they're going to win. And the reason I say that, I have 28-24 49ers. I think it'll be the final drive of the game. And I think the 49ers are going to go down the field and just run just Christian McCaffrey, outside zone, inside. It doesn't matter. He's just going to pick apart this defense just running the ball. The reason I believe that is because what is really important to realize with this Rams team is that last week, I don't look at things like, okay, it didn't hurt the game, so whatever. No. This could be a problem. Kenny Walker was not stoppable. He had over 5 yards per carry. It's not talked about because the Rams took the run game completely out of the game for Seattle because they were down. Christian McCaffrey has never had a bad game against the Rams, no matter what uniform he was wearing. He had the 3 touchdowns we've talked about before against the Rams, the hat trick you rarely see. I don't see any sort of scenario where a guy who just had 152 yards, the quietest 152-yard game I've ever seen against the Steelers defense, doesn't go over 100 in this game against the Rams. I think he's going to wear him out at the end, and I think they lose on a game-losing touchdown, 28-24. And I think that first off, Rams fans shouldn't be upset. It's a heartbreaker. Rams fans shouldn't be upset. This is what you want to see. You want to see them in games like this. Does not matter that they're at home. It does not matter. You want to see them in games like this to really show you, because let me be the voice of reason here real quick. While I think they're going 10-7, there's going to be bumps along the way. I have them losing to Washington later on in the year because I think that's just the course of the NFL. Are they better team than the Commanders? Yes. But I had to pick a game in which it'd be like a stinker. They'd show up and they'd just not show up, essentially. I feel like there are going to be moments throughout this season where Rams fans are going to have to understand you can't go from one hand, tank for Caleb, tank for Caleb, tank for Caleb. You're insane, Jake. They're not going to win games. To then calling me insane for saying they're going to lose the game here and there. I think this team is better than anyone realized. I think they're going to be in the playoffs. I think they could make a playoff run, but you have to understand that with this defense, in getting rid of Ramsey, getting rid of Floyd, getting rid of Wagner, as great as they looked last week, the second half, holding him to 12 yards and 1 first down, that's not going to happen every week. So you are right in a sense. Okay, this is a young defense. I expect them to get burned at times. You can't now just pull back and be like, oh, the 49ers offense has no chance. Like, no. You have to give them props. This offense is lethal when you have guys like Kittle and Debo having like a down game and you have like Ayuk going off. There'll be games where Ayuk isn't going off, right?
Right.
And that's when Debo will step up. That's when Kittle. That's when, like, Christian McCaffrey is always going to be that guy. But that's the important thing to realize, is that, like, regardless of how this game goes, as long as they're competitive, you have no reason to complain about this team moving forward.
For sure. We have Gammon Brown again asking in the super chat. Thank you, Gammon, for that. Why are we burying the lead? And then favorite adult beverage and game day food you will have on deck for the game.
I'll lead off with this one. May surprise people. I do not drink at all. I don't have any adult beverages. Haven't for a long time. And but game day food, I am all about the game day nachos. I do all sorts of different nachos through the year. This last weekend on Saturday, the day before, I barbecued a Boston butt in my backyard. I got an offset smoker. I barbecued some pulled pork, and I had pulled pork nachos last week. I had barbecue nachos last week. And so, some form or fashion, I usually have nachos with the game. It is a tradition. I usually post it on Twitter.
I like just a plain cheese pizza. All right. I like a plain cheese pizza, and
But
I'll
you're in
have
New
maybe
York, so that's
yeah.
that's a decent kind of pizza, I would think.
Yeah. Well, I always have to say plain because people are like, oh, you don't like the no. When it comes to pizza, I'm like Dave Portnoy. I don't want. If I have to judge a pizza, I need it to be plain cheese, so I know what I'm getting myself into. But then I think like for drink, it varies. I'll have a Miller Lite every now and then. I'll have a Blue Moon, kind of whatever's around. And then if none of those are around, I'll just stick to like water. I'm good on that. But yeah, I mean that's pretty much how that works. If there's not pizza, it better be like something like, I don't know, like sushi or like wings or something like that.
Wow, sushi.
It's got to be some like good food, man. Like one of my all-time favorites. Like pizza and sushi are like my two favorite things. So
Wow,
that's why I said
interesting.
that.
I could never get into sushi, and even being born in
Oh,
California, where like
so good.
the ocean is kind of right there, and I have tried it, but for me, I will say I like to have the snacks like your Chex Mix, your chips with dip, and things like that, and then I really like attending the local bar that has the package where I can watch with other Niner fans in my city and have the
Mm.
volume on and whatever. And then it's bar food, your burgers and wings and pizza and all that. But I like being able to watch with my folks. We have now that it's on YouTube, like that's kind of a game changer. And we have that, as Johnny mentioned, watching the 40-minute after. That is so cool to get the recap on stuff. But so then at home, it's definitely having all of those, the Chex Mix, the guacamole dip, or making your own nachos or whatever. Just pretty much the basics, nothing crazy. So we're definitely excited for the game. Now, Jake, what we would like to do, we do this in the channel where we're hopefully going to talk to whoever our opponent is. Now, it's different when we have a divisional opponent because hopefully this is not the only time that we talk to you then, right? Are you down when we
Yeah,
play again?
I'm always down.
Awesome. So then my next question is, this is the first time we weren't able to do this. We weren't able to find a Pittsburgh content creator. And so this is the first time that we're doing this. So I'm just going to throw this out there. Johnny doesn't even know. I'm just curious. Do we want to do a friendly bet situation where if whoever loses when we're on the show, we have to either wear, I mean, I don't have, and I don't assume Johnny has like a Rams jersey, something.
I'll
Is there
stop you right
something we
there.
can do?
I'm not touching a 49ers jersey. I picked them to win. There's no friendly bet here. I'm not in that.
Which is fair. You actually threw me off when you actually picked us to win, which again, I respect that you being so level-headed,
Mhm.
and I get it. And the Rams chat. What's cool about this that we're using is me and Johnny guys can see the Rams chat. I know that you guys can't watching live on YouTube, but Johnny and I can. And Jake is getting hell from the from his chat. No, don't do it. Don't wear the Niners gear. But again, it threw me off a little bit that you were so level-headed to actually pick the Niners to win. And again, we're so grateful to have you on the channel to be able to talk about just being level-headed, and then talk about this channel does the whys and hows of the game, and that you were able to go through and dissect some of that stuff with us. We really appreciate it. So
yeah, can I jump in there
yeah.
real quick? I love talk with Jake. We did this last year because he's so level-headed, because I love anything that makes sense and is sensible. And that's also why I have decided to partner with White Oak Pastures. It is a place where you can go to get all of some sensibly grown meat, sensibly farmed meat. They're a family-owned farm out of Bluffton, Georgia, and you can go to whiteoakpastures.com/JD49. They believe in regenerative, responsible farming. Okay, so a lot of places you can go to the grocery store and they'll say grass-fed, organic. These are catchphrases anymore. It's just things it's marketing. I live in an area where a lot of the cows here, they're raised for 2 years, they're fed grass, and then they're shipped off to a big commercial farm. They're finished with grains, finished with corn, fattened up, and sent off to a big meat packer, and they sell it to you as grass-fed. This place isn't like that. They butcher their own meat on site. It's sent to you flash frozen from the site, packed in dry ice. It is grass-fed, grass-finished. These animals never spend time in a cage. You can also get pasture raised pork, forage fed, means they're not fed all these different things and junk that is just thrown in there just to fatten the pigs up. They're raised off of actual plants, and they grow. And if you know anything about pork and beef that are raised off of grass and forage, that they are healthier for you. They're healthier for the animal. And you can get $20 off your first order of $150 or more at whiteoakpastures.com/JD49. Make sure to use coupon code JD49. It's about responsible, regenerative farming. It's good for you. It's good for the environment. It's good for the animal. And so you can check it out. It's about sensible things because we are all about things that make sense here. It tastes better. And you know what? You go to any premier market around the country and you look for this kind of stuff, you're going to pay even more than what these guys are charging. So go check them out. They have a lot of great stuff. It'll get to your door within 2 days. It's a fantastic place, fantastic family farm, and a cause that you want to support. You want to send a message to the meat companies that say, we're not going to support the ways that meat has been done in so many inhumane ways, in ways that aren't healthy for you, that aren't sustainable. So go check them out. whiteoakpastures.com/JD49.
Love it. Love it. And remember, guys, you can follow us on Instagram, on Facebook, on the TikToks, all that, right? Johnny Dell's Football Academy. Jake, why don't you, here's what I love. Now that I didn't know much about your channel, and now I'm interested to be able to see stuff about the Rams when we play, because I want to know about my opponent, right? And so I want to give all of our Niner fans the knowledge too of where they can find you, where they can get your content, and so that they can seek you out again when we play you guys and things like that. All Niner fans appreciate level-headed. That's going to be my name for you, the level-headed Rams fan, because, and I'll say this, Mike, I do have cousins that live in SoCal, and they are hardcore Dodgers, Rams, like everything, and we argue, and I wish they would argue like you did. So, but let Niner fans know where we can find you.
Yeah, you can find all my stuff. First off, youtube.com/ it's at jkbogan15. It's not JK Bogan like my Twitter handle, and like it says there, because someone claimed it 12 years ago, and I will never be able to claim it, I guess. I already reached out to YouTube and like, no, they had it first. I'm like, yeah, they haven't posted in 12 years. Anyway, that's all that. But yeah, you can follow me at JK Bogan on Twitter. I have all my stuff there. I just did an interview with Marshall Faulk. So that's there as well, if you remember him. So Marshall Faulk, Torrey Holt, we're gonna have another huge interview. If you're interested in any of the greatest show on turf players, if you're a Niners fan, probably not, but yeah, I think the thing that would probably best link to you guys is if you're a Niners fan. Cam Lynch and I, the co-host of our show Off the Edge, we cover the NFL. We do recaps for all the NFL games every week, and then we preview all the NFL games. Cam picked the Rams. I picked the 49ers on our recent show. But you can check that out. It's on the same YouTube channel. But you could also look up Off the Edge and at Off the Edge Show on Twitter. But guys, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, this was awesome. And we look forward to doing this twice a year now, and maybe 3 times. We played the Seahawks 3 times. We know how that went. So I don't know if we're going to play you 3 times this year, but that would make for a killer show. I mean, I'm down. And I will say, for the NFL, it is good for the NFL, if the Packers, Cowboys, 49ers, and Rams are all good, that is good for the NFL. So I'm down with that. Of course, I'm not a Rams fan, but just being open and honest, like that that for sure is a good thing for the NFL. So I'm all for it. It makes the games really good and exciting. So thanks to Jake for being on the show. Yes, if you would like to support the channel further, consider dropping a sub on the channel. So thank you to everyone that has commented, everyone showing love. We were able to not go to blows on this one, so we fought properly, I think, on this one. So for all of us at Niner, for the Niner faithful, thank you for joining us. Take care of each other, even the Rams fans. And as always, go Niners.